Good evening, Miami. Welcome to the last episode of Fast Break on a Wednesday night. For the time being, we're going to move on to Tuesday starting next week. With me always, my right-hand man, the voice of God, Mr. Heaton 5. Clutch, what's up, bro?
What's up, man? I'm annoyed. Not scared, but annoyed.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I'll get to you, but without further ado, my man, I'm so happy, Justin. You are back home today, so no travel. Even though we are going to start a section whenever you're traveling, we are going to be like, "War in the world is just Garfield." So, welcome. How you doing, my man? How you doing on the West Coast? How's everything out there?
An old movie once said, "There's no place like home." There really is no place like it. I am back on the West Coast where I belong. It feels great. And we're only 5 wins away from a clutch face reveal.
That's true. Clutch, do you remember that?
Yeah, I'll follow my word if it happens.
Boom, boom, Justin. Quick reaction. Obviously, I'll get to you guys. First and foremost, Western Conference Finals done and over with. Nuggets have hands down been the best basketball team this year. They proved it once again. They play beautiful team basketball. They sweep the Lakers, close it out on the road. Credit is where it's funny that this team, the Nuggets, had the continuity. The Nuggets weren't a team that fired the head coach after 2 seasons. They built the right way. They acquired players like an Aaron Gordon, Brown. This trade deadline. They are the epitome of team basketball along with the Heat. So my kudos to them. Automatically, the season ending for the Lakers. The talk, obviously, in SportsCenter takes over, and LeBron possibly retiring. We all know he's not going to retire. We all know. We all don't know, Justin. You're in the LA, so I'll send that out to you because obviously we know LeBron. We understand the narrative that this carries, the power of his words. So is he even remotely considering retirement? Which, granted, you're 38 years old. He has a possible long recovery this offseason. I don't know if he's going to have surgery or not, but if he wants to continue to play, there has to be some sort of long-term rehab for his foot. So you're close. You get the vibes. What do you feel? What's going on out there?
One of the sports networks said, "This is him at 38 years old. You're tired. You've accomplished just about everything there can be in your sport, in your profession. What else is there to do?" And I also heard him say, "Well, just because I want to play with my son doesn't mean he wants to play with me." I'm paraphrasing there. And I think he still does. So I think we aren't going to see him retire this year. If he does, then I think he will come back one last year as a free agent and come play with his son. If he takes this year off, who knows? I don't buy LeBron's words that he's done with basketball or any just thought around that.
Clutch, I know we're going to get into Heat. I know you want to, share your displeasure of annoyment. What do you feel? I remember I didn't hear it. I just saw the tweet and I saw the article up there with Chris Haynes about LeBron Hint's retirement. I automatically knew. I'm like, oh, here we go. He's just trying to. I'm not saying he's trying to go and discredit the Nuggets, but his talks about him. So obviously, this is some sort of play there. He's just gonna create either pressure for the front office. He's sending messages out to free agents. There's many options here. What's your feel for the situation?
I'm gonna try my hardest not to sound like a hater because I'm not. I appreciate LeBron, his time in Miami and all that. But
I like the preface of that.
But he just got swept. So obviously he goes to his reporter friends. Hey guys, ask me about retirement. And he's gonna say, "Oh, give them a little headline." Everybody talks about, "Oh, is LeBron gonna retire?" and not LeBron's Lakers get swept. That's pretty much it. Like with the story, that's all it's gonna be. I know he's gonna play with his son. He doesn't care what his son wants. He cares what he wants. He's gonna play with his son. And that's just the point of it. I mean, there's nothing else to it. He's gonna play, and yeah, it's just taking the taking the the word just taking all the The attention. Thank you. I'm slow today.
But
Wait.
yeah, go ahead. Clutch, you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were finishing the point. You're done?
Yeah, I just said he was just taking attention off of the sweep. That's basically the gist of it.
And somebody did just say, look, LeBron controls the narrative of everything, and he just sent that message to rival execs from that to the sweep, like you said, to now pondering retirement. Now he's sending all the GMs into frenzy.
That's basically, it could be a power move when it comes to free agency. I'm not going to lie. It could be a power move with Rob Pelinka. There's a lot of situations. Obviously, there's a lot of frustrations with the Lakers, but we'll discuss that in later shows in the offseason because I do believe there's going to be historical player movement this offseason when it comes to seismic moves around the NBA because we didn't expect anything last year with Donovan Mitchell and Kevin Durant, and it happened a few weeks into the offseason. So obviously, this year is the focus on Wembanyama. We know he's going to the Spurs. There's going to be a lot of movements around this. So we'll discuss that at a later show. Tonight, we'll focus on the main point. Let's keep the main thing. Our beloved Miami Heat. We had the possibility to sweep them at home. Me, in my coaching mentality, I don't want to go back to Boston. I know the Heat, for some reason, seem to be better as underdogs. I don't know if it's a mental, a psyche of it. We're once again underdogs going into Game 5. We're 8-point underdogs. So there is a beauty in the art form of closing them out in front of their home fans. But I saw the opportunity to close them out. I saw the sluggish starts to the second half, the lazy passes, not getting back in their assignments on defense. Obviously, the Celtics are not going to have 2 consecutive bad shooting nights per se. So you can kind of give that. We shot, I believe, 25% from 3. They shot 40% from 3. We see the mistakes. I'm not afraid. I'm not frightened. I don't think the Boston Celtics beat us. I'll give them credit. But we lost that game in a style of play. No excuses. We're professional athletes. Obviously, the Celtics play like they did this year. We saw some inconsistencies with the offense where you kind of missed Tyler Herro at times. Maybe Jimmy took too long to turn it up later on. They were kind of cozying through there. Now we have the Gabe Vincent uncertainty. Clutch, I'm going to go to you first. What do you feel about yesterday? How do you feel moving forward to tomorrow?
Yeah, I feel like I always have to put disclaimers out before I say what I got to say because it just gets taken out of context sometimes. But do not confuse scared or worried for annoyed when I say I'm annoyed.
Yes.
Because I'm not scared nor worried nor threatened because you can't get Heat in 5, like I always say, without that one loss. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it if it somehow gets to 6 because it's still in Miami. Talk to me about being worried if they magically end up in Game 7, which they won't. But it's annoying because not because they lost, but because there was a point in the third. I forget if it's early in the third or late in the third, where Max Strus hits a 3 and they're up by 9. And I kind of put my guard down at that point. I'm like, okay, we probably got this. And then just Boston answers with a massive Boston just answers with a massive, like I think 17-0 run. Something crazy like that.
16-0 run. They were up. Yeah. Or an 18-0 run, something like that. Yeah, because they were up 7.
Yeah, and then Grant Williams, who I can't stand his face, just starts making every 3 known to man. And then Marcus Smart is a little front runner who starts making 3s after everybody else starts making 3s. So it just compounds into just a freaking storm down in Kaseya. And it just ended up being terrible. I think Jimmy gets too confident sometimes and puts his guard down when he thinks they got it. So had his guard down. He was playing his normal rotation minutes. It's not like Spo was playing him more minutes to close it out. And he just put his guard down and then realized, oh crap, they just made a run. and now I have to score 15 points in the third quarter, which he did. And then he sits again, which I think he came in too late. I think Miami
in the fourth
in the fourth quarter, Miami made a run to bring it down to 5, and they called a timeout. I think Jimmy should have put it in at the timeout because immediately after the timeout,
because Tatum came
that's
in.
when they went on another run and they went up by 11. So I think you kind of, I guess you put that on Spo because he does that weird thing where he doesn't come in after the timeout, but after the timeout, like he lets like 20 seconds pass and then he sends him to the scorers table, which is weird to me, but I'm not gonna question him.
Yeah, one possession.
Yeah, so it's just annoyed with how it happened. I honestly do think it could have been avoided, even into the third quarter. It could have been avoided, but at the end, just late in the fourth, the shots that we normally make, that Gabe Vincent makes, the shots that Jimmy Butler makes, he was just missing at that point, and you kind of realize, okay, we're probably just gonna have to wait until Game 5 for something to happen. But like you said, you always look at the bright side, and the bright side is you can really make Boston fans leave sad tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I'll bring it up after you, Justin, but there was a sense yesterday. It was a letdown for me in the aspect of you had the opportunity to give your home crowd a massive closeout, a massive psychological victory, because I guess we also compare the fallout and the way it ended yesterday with how we won Game 3, which was in dominant fashion. People forget that Games 1 and Game 2 were fought until the end. We were in control at times of certain games, but it was really fought until the end. That's when we pulled away. Game 3 was a complete dominance from the second quarter because they just looked depleted. They looked lifeless. So you don't want to give them a little bit of life because obviously they're going to be confident going back home. They're going to play. I do expect the Heat to start strong. I know Boston's going to make their run. I do see this kind of being like when we close out Milwaukee. I would not be surprised if Boston is up double digits at some point, but I hope they come with a sense of urgency where I'm trying to close it out at Boston. I don't want to come back to Miami 3-2, even though we're okay and it's not the end of the world, but then it starts trickling. If you make any mistakes, if you let your guard down, now you got to go back to the Gardens, tied at 3 games apiece. And that's obviously a situation where we can handle it, but you don't want to get to that point because then you're playing with your meat, like you say yesterday, Claude. So Justin, from afar, what was your perspective on yesterday? What do you, at what point do you think, was it those runs in the third and the fourth? Did you see something in the first or second that you're like, they're not in it today?
Well, we saw the Boston came to play in the first 2 quarters, first half, and then third quarter outscore Miami. I think it was 38-23 or some crazy number like that. Yep. But anyways, you're back against the wall. You're on the road, and that group's been together a long time in Boston. They're not going to fold over and die just like that. And I am disappointed in the players for Miami for not wanting to close it out. As a Houston Astros fan, I saw them win the World Series controversially on the road in 2017. And when that happens, the stadium is lifeless. It's not that fun.
Yeah.
Opposed to this past year, when you see them win it at home, it was electric. I had never been so elated in my life, even just watching it from here. And so that's the kind of feeling that I want. That's kind of why I wanted LA to win 1 game so Denver could clinch at home. Just to see the fans get there for the first time ever, that would have been rewarding. But now they'd have to do it in the finals, if anything. And assuming Miami gets there, we don't want that to happen either. So, Jimmy, guys, let's just get it done in Boston, just like the Warriors did last year, saying we're not coming back home for a Game 7.
And that's the mentality you got to have. And because now, for example, you're going into it's rest at this point also. Because the longer this series takes, the Nuggets are rested. And you have a few injuries now with Vincent. Jimmy Butler, extra time will be beneficial for his ankle, which obviously we're not going to know what's really happening going forward. He doesn't seem to be that affected that much, but it could be a little lingering situation. Also, it gives Tyler Herro time, which no matter what happens, it gives Tyler Herro time to come back. I doubt he comes back for the finals. There's a slight chance he does, but there were moments yesterday in the third and the fourth that you saw where I honestly, at this point, I really think it's ignorant from a fan to say Tyler Hero wouldn't be an asset. I understand our offense is clicking and it's very free flowing right now, and people are getting their touches. But for you to say Tyler Hero wouldn't have any effect on this team, that part is pretty idiotic basketball wise. You can't explain that. You cannot rationalize that in a basketball term of how Tyler Hero wouldn't be more beneficial now. You saw it in spurts there where you needed someone like Tyler Hero to get you a bucket because you went cold for a period of time. And what I didn't like was the defensive disposition. Obviously, I do believe Spo will make the adjustment where he will have Jimmy off the ball a little bit more because Jimmy doesn't necessarily need to be on the ball from the beginning of the game. Mostly, obviously, in close. I'm talking about ISO. Obviously, they're still gonna run their offense in the high post with him, maybe with Bam. But I do believe that Bam has to be more aggressive starting the game. This is not an excuse, but our two best players really didn't play up to par yesterday. We had a bad shooting percentage, and we were still in the game. We were leading at halftime. It was just a complete meltdown in the third and fourth where you see the crowd go silent, and then you're like, oh, man. When you see that crowd go very, very silent, you're like, this is going to be a long night. You knew they were going to make a push, but every time they made a push, there was a counter to it, and we just couldn't overcome. It was a lot of lazy passes, a lot of not closing out properly, sometimes doubling. Honestly, they started doubling Tatum that I'm okay with. You don't have to double Tatum. I could just give Martin the assignment or give Jimmy the assignment. I can live with some of the shots he was taking because they were long-range shots, even though obviously people talk a lot about Jayson Tatum. You still got to give him credit. He's still one of the best two-way players. But there's a lot of situations that we as fans see it from the outside in. So obviously you're going to have and some of these analysts in ESPN where Mike Greenberg today, for example, just flat out says that Boston should win the next 3 in a row because they're a better team.
Guy.
I'm gonna give it to you, Clutch, because this is an argument that I've had with some people. I told them, I'm like, is Boston more talented or they just have more recognizable names? Because talent-wise, I understand when you're talking about youth with Jaylen Brown and Tatum, I get that. But if you compare rosters, and it's really pissing me off at this point, the way they're talking about Strus and Vincent and even Robinson. There's a lot of teams this season that wanted Strus and Vincent. Miami didn't trade them to them. So I'm gonna ask you that question because I know the conversation about undrafted with Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller's getting killed. Kevin Garnett came to the defense. I forgot Kendrick Perkins came to the defense. Where you got to stop using this narrative. I understand we find undrafted players. But these players are no longer just undrafted players. They're NBA players. They're rotational players. So how do you feel with this constant comparison or the narrative? Because I understand why the national media does not like the Miami Heat because of personal reasons when it comes to credentials, and the Miami Heat give priority to local media. So I get that. But why is this constant narrative? And I'm not trying to be a homer, and let me know if I am. But I understand Boston could be overall more talented, like from 3 on down or 4 on down. But is it that big of a gap, Clutch?
Yeah, I'm gonna start off with that before we get into the Mike Greenberg, that buffoon. Yeah, I think this undrafted narrative is like you said, it's so dumb because undrafted, like, let's just be real, in the national media, undrafted comes off like you're saying scrubs or bums.
Exactly.
And yeah, and that's just not the case. Undrafted doesn't mean you're not talented. It just means you were in a situation where you couldn't get scouted to the fullest ability and you weren't able to be drafted.
Or you haven't been fully developed by a coach.
And that's what the Heat thrive in, and in the scouting department, finding the guys that could be developed into these NBA players, and it's been a revolving door ever since, like what 4 or 5 years back. So that undrafted narrative, like, I swear to God, if tomorrow, if I play this game of take a shot every time Reggie Miller says undrafted, I'd be dead by halftime because it's annoying. And he's just gonna keep saying it, and I don't get the narrative there. And as far as Mike Greenberg goes, That's stupid. Like he's a solid like anchor for a show, but not to give his own
Yeah,
personal opinions because he's stupid. Because he's a homer.
man.
He's from New York.
Yeah.
He likes
Hmm.
all that. He's a front runner. That's what he is. I'm sorry, but that's what he is. And then yeah,
I can't
saying
wait for the Dolphins to beat the Jets. Gonna talk
yeah,
so much shit.
being up
Always.
3-0, that means that he are the better team so far this series. You don't luck into 3-0. You can luck a game, you can luck maybe two at
Yeah.
most, but you can't luck 3-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's always about in the national media. It's always about how the Celtics lose instead of how the Heat win, and it's annoying
Or how the
because
Lakers lose
and
and
that
not the Nuggets win.
exactly. So it's
Exactly.
annoying. Like part of why I'm annoyed today is because the Heat lost, and now the national media all over the place. You can look on any channel. They're saying Boston is going to complete the biggest. They're gonna the biggest comeback in NBA history. The Heat are going to collapse. All over Twitter, ESPN, everywhere, and that's part of why it's annoying.
And I'll tell you this, Clutch, before I go to you, Justin. All they're gonna use this is for fuel. Miami uses this for fuel. They love being the underdogs, and you can be discounted. It gives you an edge as an athlete. When people discount you, it gives you a mental edge for those people that are driven. Because I know a lot of athletes personally that a lot of my friends were very talented, and they just weren't good enough. But then you have the chip on the shoulder where one of the models that we use for our team is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's the phrase, and we use it all the time. You can have all the God-given talent in the world. If you don't use it, if you don't sharpen it, it's not going to be able to be productive because you're not going to know when to use it and how to use it. Which the conversation about undrafted. Even with this is a Pat Riley culture thing. People forget John Starks with the Knicks. John Starks was kind of like the first mold of Pat Riley, an undrafted player, if I'm not mistaken, Justin. John Starks was undrafted, correct? I'm not asking here.
I'd have to look that one up.
Who?
Yeah. John Starks were the Knicks.
I'm not sure.
I believe. Well,
He was
I'll
undrafted.
presume,
You're correct. He was undrafted.
he was undrafted, and he was one of the top 3 players for a Pat Riley team that was in the Eastern Conference Finals, I believe, 2 or 3 years when he was there. And they went to the finals and lost to the Rockets. So this is not something new. There's a reason why certain organizations grow, and there's a reason why certain agents guide their players to certain organizations. Why? Because we're going to find something that you do great. We're going to magnify it. We're going to try to improve what you lack, and not in talent, but in certain developmental points, which is why some of these players go undrafted, because at that point you're drafting talent, but you got to develop it. You got to develop it to what you want for the player, not only for you, because a lot of organizations box in their players. Like a lot of coaches in youth sports, they box in their players. So this whole undrafted talk, not that it bothers me, but it's already second nature with Miami. We know it. You're either going to get paid by us, like in a Duncan Robinson situation, where Duncan Robinson right now looks like the Duncan Robinson that was playing in Seals Falls in the Skyforce. Duncan Robinson no longer is that much of a liability on defense. When we talked about this season, Duncan Robinson, which I still think, in my personal opinion, is one of the main sour points in Eric Spoelstra's brain, is why he didn't use Duncan Robinson more this season, because the offense clicks with him, and Bam Adebayo play perfect cohesively. So I know for sure, if he's not moved on this season, he's going to be continue using that role, because he's no longer that much of a defensive liability. He can put the ball on the floor. He can create. He has a quick release. So it's all beneficial points. But Justin, I know, how do you feel about this whole undrafted talk in regards to people using it against the Heat, and even saying to the point that some of these players wouldn't be rotational players in other teams? I'm pretty sure some teams will take Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, and who am I missing? And Duncan Robinson somewhere in their rotation.
It's the natural way that sports work. I'm a huge college football guy, and you don't know how much flack I took from Florida Gator fans in 2017 as a UCF fan when they kept mocking us like we'd run right through you. You guys suck. Oh, by the way, can we take your coach? It's that kind of mentality that they're practicing here. They want what they can't have, so they'll mock it.
Exactly.
They'll mock it until it's theirs. Hey, how many Lakers fans mocked LeBron until he came to the Lakers?
Exactly. It's always different when they're on your side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I even had, now that you mentioned that, the point that I was making. People take this narrative, and what you said, Clutch, we beat the Celtics 3 games in a row. We're up 3-0. I understand we dropped 1 at home when you want to close it out. So I understand the optics of that. You don't want to go back on the road. You don't want to go back to Boston for 1 game to work your ass off and try to close them out again. Why? Because no matter what, you run the risk of injury. You run the risk of having a bad shooting night. So this could come back 3-2 to Miami. And now you're still in a comfortable situation, but you got to minimize those mistakes, which I understand certain points that are being made. Miami right now really has one bucket getter when it comes to Jimmy Butler. Bam at times, depending on what he's doing, depending on how aggressive he is that day, depending on the matchup. So I do believe that you'll see a different approach offensively where Bam is kind of like the focal point and you got Jimmy going back and forth a little bit more freely. You're not going to see Jimmy per se just ISO ball in the first, second, third quarter. Obviously, when the clutch moments come, you have Jimmy there creating. That's a de facto of this team. But you will see more free flow. And I do believe some of those shots will fall because we have been shooting a certain percentage in the playoffs where basketball is a little bit of luck as well. And obviously it's hard work, but you are going to have some off nights. You're not going to have many off nights because you're a professional athlete, but it might happen. Do I think any team can beat Miami 4 games in a row in a series? No, because I believe this team was built for a 7-game series. And when you build teams like that, your precise build is I'm not going to lose 4 games in a row, or I'm not going to lose a total of 4 games in a 7-game series. And I don't believe there's any team that can beat them.
If I could add to that to your Bam point, especially like I've been on the show. You've seen me on the show. I've given Bam a whole lot of criticism during the series, during the first round, I think it was. Yeah, when Caleb was probably a better player for the first round than Bam was against Milwaukee. You've seen me say that. And 10-5 yesterday was not acceptable at all. But I will say this. The first 3 games, Bam has been on fire. He's been everywhere exactly where he needed to go. So I'm not really worried. I'm annoyed. Like I keep saying the word annoyed. That's the word of the day. I'm annoyed that game 4, Bam just didn't show up like he should have. But that seems to be the outlier in this series because he's been so great the first 3 games. The first 3 games he's been attacking. He's been running to dunk to murder people. He's been dunking on everybody. He's been doing everything the way it should be. So I'm not too worried about Bam, and I'm the last person to say this, but you kind of can cut him some slack for having 1 off game because he's been so good the first 3 games.
And defensively, their focus was to eliminate. If you notice, defensively yesterday, what they were trying to do, they were crowding all the lanes. So it makes it at one point, I think I forgot if it was a Jimmy pass or I forgot who passed it to Bam, and there was 3 bodies around them in the middle of the paint.
I think that was Duncan. Actually, I remember exactly what you're saying too.
Yeah, and I at the moment I'm like, okay, you can't force that pass. Just kick it out, restart. Because defensively, they were going to clog the paint. They were going to clog all your lanes. So you figure that. But this is also the part where I analyze it for myself, and I'm like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Just take a break, take a deep breather. That's what I love what Jimmy said. We're going to go drink some beers. We're going to drink some wine, listen to music. We got this. We've been in this situation before. And people will react a little bit because you're still up 3-1, like you mentioned. It was – I understand people were saying things like differently, like if we split in Boston we win the next 2 at home, and then we go back up there 3-1, we still up 3-1. Okay, there's a reason we're up 3-1. There's a reason there's that comfort. There's a reason people want home court advantage. Right now, we still have home court advantage. So everybody just needs to simmer down. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, like I said. Retouch up small details, focal points. Now you do have to give consistency. You have to be accountable, and you have to give consistent minutes. You got to play a complete basketball game. It's going to take a near perfect game to beat them if they're on their game. The Celtics, people forget, the Celtics were the number 1 seed in the East all the way up to, I believe, like the last couple of weeks or the last month, and Milwaukee took them over. I understand they got a rookie head coach in Mazzulla. He made some adjustments that were decent, but Spo's still the experienced, seasoned veteran here. So this game might come down to last minute, hopefully, no knick-knack fouls, and it's going to be coaching. It's going to be coaching to the very end, and it might be a very defensive game. So it might not be one of these high-scoring games. So we'll see. But we're at the 32-minute mark. We're going to keep it short today. Our Panthers, like you said, are up 1-0, which is another one. They have the possibility of closing out the series. Yes, sir. At home, what a stretch, man. And Bobrovsky, he's really ramped up. Justin, from afar, any final points for the Heat, for the Panthers? Before we go, I do want to say this. I understand the possibility of our Nuggets. If obviously we advance to the finals, we're going to be underdogs against the Nuggets, which we fit right into that mold once again. Is it going to be beautiful basketball? Yes, it is. I'm not going to give any predictions until our next show on Tuesday. So the floor is yours, Justin.
First, I'd like to say motion to ban any former Yankee players who blew a 3-0 lead to the Red Sox from attending games. I'm looking at you, Derek Jeter.
Yes, I was so mad. I was so mad when I saw them.
Get the F out of Miami. Both of y'all.
Oh, man.
Second of all, I got to say happy birthday to my boy Scott. Huge Panthers fan down in Fort Lauderdale. Let's give you a great birthday present. Stanley Cup final. Come on.
And as we're talking, we just went up 2-0.
Let's go.
Panthers scored again?
We're manifesting, people. We're manifesting.
Man. It's insane how we are. I'm telling you. I don't want to jinx this because I know me and Bobby talked about it the other day a lot. Very few times has there been three. Has there ever been a 3-champion independent league, obviously, in the same city and the same year? Or no?
Has there ever been 2?
Has there ever been 2?
I feel like Boston at one point had to have won 2.
The
Patriots, like 04, and the Red Sox.
Yeah, I know they put this stat out that there's never been a basketball and a hockey. I don't know if any other sports combined.
Oh, but probably baseball and hockey, possibly, like you said. Tampa, was it Tampa when the Bucks won the? Did the Lightning win the cup when the Bucks won the Super Bowl?
They did win the cup that year, yeah.
Okay, so there we go. I know. Someone mentioned that in one of our shows. I forgot who, but yeah, that's true. Hey, but we'll see, man. It's amazing. It's amazing to be down here at this time, and I got to give my kudos to the Panthers because they built the right way. It took them. They have the right ownership. The trade this offseason, you trade a very popular player. My son was devastated when we traded Huberdeau. But when you acquire Kachuk, just a talent like that, you can't pass that up. And it's been the difference. And this team has evolved in front of our eyes. And it's funny because last year we were the number 1 team. We won the President's Cup or the President's Trophy, whatever it's called. We had the best record in the league, and then we get bounced in the first round. And it's kind of like the same scenario with the Heat. So they've taken a life of, by all means, I do believe the connecting factor in here has to be Mike McDaniel. I know you've seen him clutch everywhere.
Yeah, he's at the game today. He was pounding the drum.
He's in the Panthers game now. There's nothing aside from football, aside from that, he has made the Miami Dolphins a fun organization, which obviously still accountability. We still got to perform. We still got to win. But he is the epitome of a modern day NFL coach.
Yeah, I don't think a Dolphins coach has integrated himself with the city as much as Mike McDaniel's has since Don Shula.
Exactly. And that was de facto because he was the only one here. I mean, like you have arguably Eric Spoelstra, which by the time he's done, he could have even a grander stretch. I'm not. Let me correct myself. I'm not going to say anything about Pat Riley because Pat Riley put everything on the map. Really, he put basketball on the map here. So, but you can argue that Spo could be a better coach by the time he's said and done. But obviously, yes, like comparing Shula with any Miami coach. They established that culture. They established those teams. But it's taking a life on its own, man. So it's awesome to watch. I know people will enjoy it. And I just want for a second people to enjoy it as a fan and just relax. Take a deep breath. Enjoy the game. I know I say this, and I'm talking shit because I don't enjoy it because I'm just analyzing everything that I'm seeing, so it sucks. But I'll end it on this note, like always, Clutch. Any final words, my brother?
No, man. I usually say one thing, but I'm probably going to bring up two things right now. It's funny, like we mentioned the Panthers. It's kind of turned into fast break, but for the Panthers, really, really fast.
Yeah,
dude. I think the Panthers literally traded in the offseason. They traded for their Jimmy Butler because he's been that good for them. He's been kind of difference maker for them.
Yep.
It's been awesome. And
yeah,
they've been synchronized. The Heat and the Panthers have been synchronized very well for about a week now. Every time they won, the other one won. Every time somebody said something, the other one said something.
Well,
and
you can argue the whole season. You can argue the whole season, man. They struggle the same way. They played
you can
the
even
playoffs
like last season, right?
Games.
Yeah, they both were the number 1 seed last year, and they didn't win. And now they're both the 8th seed.
Yes.
They're both on the brink of going to the finals.
Hey, like you said,
yeah.
So we're talking about being annoyed and we're talking about being fans, but just enjoy it because you're never going to see something like this again at 2 at a time. I mean, these kind of runs are special. I know we were annoyed because of what happened with the Heat, but the Heat aren't even supposed to be here. Just think about it like that. And we're here. We have the type of team and the type of lead player that wants to close this out. It's not like they're going to lay down and take it easy now. Just enjoy the moment and just let's see what happens because it's been a historical run and I don't think neither of these teams are planning on it to be over anytime soon yet.
Right, and not to mention both 2 of the 4 Final Four teams in March Madness also from South Florida.
Yes, UM, yes, and FAU. And I got to give the credit to what credit is due. The way hockey analysts cover the Panthers, I respect them because they talk the truth. They analyze actually what they see, and there's no narrative there. With Miami, with the Heat, we're never going to get a fair shot. So people got to get this out of ESPN is never. The only time ESPN liked this is when LeBron was here. They had their own section, Heat Index. They had like 4 or 5 people covering the team. So now JJ Redick made a good point, and I'll end it with this. JJ Redick made a great point when he talked about a lot of the national media doesn't cover a lot of these teams. Why? Because we become reliant on just talking about LeBron, talking about the Knicks, talking about the Celtics. I want to see the day where ESPN and TNT start putting teams that actually play great team basketball. Like, if you are a basketball fan, if you play basketball at any point in your life, if you like watching the game, a Nuggets and a Heat series will check off every box. Ball movement, team defense. You could argue that you have 2 individual talents that are a persona of their own with Jokic, the Joker, and Butler. You have great coaching. You have a team of example where Nuggets didn't fire their coach after the 2nd or 3rd season. They let their team develop. Michael Porter Jr. has had 3 back surgeries. They acquired talent last 2 years ago this year. So these are teams that are doing it the right way. And it shows you can have success with development and sticking it through. We become a society where we have everything has to be instant. We were talking about it today. It's called like the disease of the Warriors. When they remove Jackson and they insert a Kerr, and people think that that's going to trickle down to every base. I'm like, no, man, you got to give something time. there are some things that need to develop, and there's teams that need to grow together. Why? Because you play more comfortable with each other. You know each other's tendencies. You know when you need to step up. You know when you need to take a step back. That comes with time. So I just want a good series. Obviously, I'm pushing for you to close. Hopefully, the next time we speak, well, I think no matter what, next time we speak, this series is going to be over. Even if it goes 6 is Saturday, the latest it goes is Monday with 7th game. So by next Tuesday, we'll for sure have our finals preview. And I want to take the time, Justin, are we going to have you next week at home or you're out on the road?
I will be north of the border.
Oh, will Toronto have a head coach by then? We'll see. We'll see. All right, Justin, thank you so much, man. Look forward to next week. Clutch, like always, much love. Oh, I see. Panthers 2, Canes 1. They scored. Oh.
Yep.
On that note, have a good night, Miami. Enjoy. And
don't play with your meat.
It out. See y'all next week. Don't play with your meat.
Go vegan instead.
Every teenager should hear. Good night, Miami. Take care.